Hi folks, welcome back to the Model 3 Man channel. It's probably 2 days, 3 days to Christmas in the moment, and such a lot to get done. Mostly, I have to wrap Janine's gifts. That would be the unforgivable sin if they were not under the tree come Christmas morning. But there are a few items I'd like to get out of the way before we launch our iPhone 12 photography review. I promise it to you. I know it won't necessarily interest all of you, but I think that anyone who has an interest in photography, you're going to be interested in how that little fellow performs. This is the Nomad case, leather with a cover and a place for 2 of your cards. I love this. I put a link in the last episode, but I'll put it down again if you want to get that and try and get it rushed before Christmas. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's a great iPhone cover. You'll remember that the company Hansshow is the company that makes the Power Trunk and the Power Frunk struts. And you'll remember my video where I did it myself, showed you how to do it, and it's been going for a year. Well, they've just given a Christmas or holiday special, and you can get variously between 20%, 25%, and 30% off different products that they have, including those struts. So here are the details. Take a look at it. If you're interested, I've put it down in the description below. You'll remember that we had a draw for the EV Premium Custom Headrest for a pair of these, either in black or in white, and I said to you that we would do the draw in the next episode. This is that episode, so let's go to the computer here. Derek from EV Premium Customs has offered a free headrest. It doesn't come with a red dragon symbol embossed in it. You can get them in black or in white. So if you want to win or stand a chance of winning a pair of these very, very useful headrests from EV Premium Customs, simply put a comment below and in it include the word headrest. And that was when we announced the draw. So let's go to the random comment picker that YouTube provides to select the winner of the pair of headrests. I've put the URL. I've asked it to filter out duplicates. I know you wouldn't do that, but any duplicate users just get filtered down to one user. Include the replies to comments. Sure, why not? Filter for the word headrest. That was the word I asked you to put in. Some of you made some good creative use of that. And we found out from the button that says Get YouTube Comments that there were 21 people who actually entered. So your chances are pretty high. And now we go across to the left-hand side where we see the Start button. And I'm going to click it right now. And the winner is Lester Hayes. Out of 21, yours was the name that came up. I'll make sure that we get the information, your contact information from you, and we get that down to Derek at Custom EV Premium. He will be sending along a pair of headrests. You can tell me whether you want the black or the white. Congratulations. Sorry to the other 20. This is probably my favorite accessory in the car. Those of you who are interested in getting a set of these and you have not won, all is not lost. If you use my discount code, you'll be able to get them from their website at a discount that you will see here in this video. Now, it's pretty ironic that Lester's comment was this: will there be a course using the iPhone as the camera? And then he put the word headrest after it. There will be a course on our school website, but today I'm going to be going over exactly what it is that makes the iPhone 12 such a great camera. I'm going to be digging deep, and I'm sure you're going to be really interested, not just to hear the statistics, but to actually see the photographs and the video and what this camera is capable of doing. So if that interests you, stick around. Let's get into it right away. So first of all, I want to be clear. This is not an iPhone 12 Pro review. It's an iPhone 12 Pro Max camera review. We're going to talk about camera performance. We're going to talk about video capture. We're going to speak about raw photography mode, first time ever in an Apple phone. So let's get into the specifics, and I want to try and make this not as dry and technical as it might seem, but I want to quickly cover some of the highlights, the key points that make this such a great camera. And then we'll go and look at a result. I took a lot of pictures, I took a lot of video samples, and we're going to be looking at those, and you can judge for yourself whether you think this camera matches up to whatever you're using. So number one, we know, of course, that in the typical Apple camera app, you've got all of the normal features. You've got slow motion. In this camera, if you record at 720p, which is an HD format, not as high as 1080, but 720 is still very, very good, you can capture 240 frames per second. So if you set your capture rate at 720p, 24 frames a second, which, by the way, as all of you know, is the movie frame rate, the classical standard movie frame rate. Here's what that does. It gives you 10 times slowed down video capture. You can see some samples here. Snow falling in our garden yesterday for the first time this winter. Seagulls and birds taken off. 10 times slower is quite significant. So that's a great feature. The second thing that most of you are familiar with is time-lapse. That means that it takes a series of pictures over time, squeezes them together to create a motion video, and you see everything sped up quite incredibly. It's good. It's really good, and here are just a few samples of how that actually looked. Let's take a look at time-lapse at an intersection near my home. Here's traffic going at normal pace. Here's some slow motion. A little jerky because that's 24 frames a second and my timeline is 30 frames a second, but look how much slower 10 times slowdown actually is. You'll see it speed up just at the end. It's come to some time-lapse. And every time I stop, there's a Model 3. Looks pretty good, looks pretty stressful, feels rushed, but here's another Model 3, that's 2. Within minutes, literally within minutes. Here's our third Model 3, and just a few light changes later, fourth Model 3. Of course, one of the key features of the iPhone 12 Pro Max is the fact that there are 3 lenses. Now, that's also true on the iPhone 12 Pro, but the lenses here differ a little from those on the Pro. The Pro Max has just got that extra something. So, first of all, let's just define them. The first one is an ultra-wide lens. You can look at it as 0.5x. where x is a zoom factor. 0.5, that's ultra-wide. Second camera is the wide camera, and that has an f number of 1.6. That's a pretty low f number. It's going to give you a lot of light. It's going to give you a great shallow depth of field. So 1.6 on the standard wide camera, and that's listed as a 1x. And then the telephoto camera, which has an f number of f2.0, being telephoto, it's never going to have as low an aperture as your wide-angle lens, of course, but it's still 2.0 is pretty good. The telephoto is listed as 2.5x. That's literally 5 times closer in than the ultra-wide camera, and that is significant. Now, I've taken a series of comparative pictures, and I'm just going to briefly show them here and play some music over them as you see just what a difference using the 3 different lenses can make. it's also listed here that there's 12 times digital zoom. And if any of you use digital zoom in your phone pictures, you should be excommunicated from this channel right away. Digital zoom will destroy the purity of any picture that you take. How? Well, it makes up pixels. It just adds imaginary calculated pixels in order to make your picture look bigger, but it gets softer and fuzzier and blurrier. Digital zoom should never be used. And how do you know you're using it? If you do this and you pinch on your screen with your fingers like that, you are digitally zooming the picture. Please don't do it. It's just going to give you garbage to work with. Here's another great feature on the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max, and that is RAW. Now, of course, it's called Apple Pro RAW. We always have to put the Apple name in it somewhere. Here's what it is. A RAW file compared to a JPEG file has a much greater range of colors and a greater range in terms of dynamic range of tones. Differences between the lightest and the darkest parts of the picture. Shooting RAW gives you a greater dynamic tonal range. It means it's more likely that the highlights in the sky won't burn out, won't be overexposed. It's more likely that we can capture usable detail in the shadows. That's the advantage of RAW. But you see, Apple's Pro RAW has one extra feature going for it. It is still able to make use of all the computational aspects of the picture taking using deep fusion. I'll mention that in just a minute. It's able to use all of that and retain access to the raw pixel data, allowing you to change things like ISO, exposure, white balance, all the things that we've always loved about using RAW. I thought it might be helpful just to jump into Lightroom for a few moments, because it's significant that when you're shooting in RAW, you get to do a lot more in terms of the finer detail, recovery of blown out highlights and dark shadows, fixing color. Let me run through a few of the pictures I took this morning and just show you what we're able to do with a RAW file. Now, when an iPhone 12 camera takes a RAW picture, it has the extension DNG. That stands for Digital Negative, and it is the RAW format offered by Adobe. Apple offering Adobe's RAW format on their cameras. They used to hate each other when Steve Jobs was alive. So if I jump into the Develop module, that brings up all of the controls that we would play with. And as you look at the picture here, when I hit the backslash, you can see what it started out as. You can see distortion, perspective distortion. You can see really dark shadows where the detail is not clear. And you can see virtually overexposed snow on the top and where the sunlight hits the wall. And it's bleached of color. The morning sun is not that color. Let's look at what it looks like after I've finished the editing. And there, the perspective has been fixed. Everything's upright. This is the yellow, orangey yellow color that I saw when I stood there. And these are natural colors for the cars that are parked here and the concrete blocks. And we can see a lot of detail in here. Let's look at another one that I know there was. Okay, I want to compare the two of these here. Let's go into the Develop module. Look at the top up here. You can see almost camouflaged in the branches the letters D and G. This is a RAW file. If I enlarge it slightly, look at the clarity of the symbol up there, the edges of the letters. Look at the details on the map. Look at the fact that even on the left where the sunlight hit, it's not overexposed. And down in the shadows, we still get to see detail. Let's jump to the JPEG. This was what the camera took. And it's really not bad. If you're familiar with phone cameras, you'll know that the fact that it did not burn out anything here is good. But if you look closely, look at the symbols at the top, look at the edge of the letters, look down over here, and I'm going to go back and just wait a second or two, and you can see that that's much sharper, much clearer. And the reason, of course, is that it's a RAW file. I got in, I edited. You can see down here that I've played with the sharpening, I've played with noise reduction, I've introduced a little bit of clarity. I played with the highlights and the shadows. You can see if I do that, it goes from being burned out all the way down to looking very well exposed. Let's get back to our library. I wanted to show you this one. This is the develop module. I'm going to just backslash. We'll show you what it looked like at the start when I took the photograph. Oh wow, well, it's overexposed, didn't look good, but it's raw. And there is what you can do with it. And one or two more examples just while we're here. Here's Red Dragon. The file is raw. This is a one-to-one view. Hit the backslash key, and there you can see that there's a lot of overexposure, a lot of reflection. Doesn't look that good. In fact, it looks very much like a phone photograph, but now we're able to bring back the detail because this is raw. Clarity. Everything looks good. It does not look, honestly, like a photograph taken on a phone. It looks like a photograph taken with a respectable camera. One more picture from a different angle. Here it is. Looking at it after I've done some adjusting. There it is with a lot of overexposure, more reflections than there should be. One more time back into the gallery. By the way, isn't this just a sign of our times? Stand together by standing apart. Story of our life in 2020, hasn't it been? I do want to show you one more thing here. Let's go back into the frost on the leaves. This was just a regular photo. Look at the background, look at the bokeh, look at the soft out of focus background, which I did not achieve by using portrait mode. I just took a photograph on the telephoto lens that gives you 2.5 times magnification. Beautiful, soft, out of focus treatment, but very sharp on the areas of the leaves that were focused. And here you can see that even our bronze statues in North Vancouver get looked after very well. He's got a mask, someone donated an anorak, they put a scarf around him, but of course this is a monument to the soldiers who died in the world wars. Now at the back of this configuration here, there is also at the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, a tiny little black circle, and that's the LiDAR scanner. Now the LiDAR scanner is extremely useful in photography because in low light, it gets to measure the distance by actually bouncing beams off the targets. And so it can increase the speed of focus. It can make focusing possible where it was not even possible before, and it makes focusing very, very accurate. So that little LiDAR scanner, which is present on some of the previous models as well, but I just needed to point it out to you. There are 2 lenses of the 3 that have optical image stabilization by means of sensor shift. Now, the iPhones have always had OIS, or optical image stabilization, and of course that means that the lens elements will move to counteract your shakiness and try and give you a more stable picture. But we have not had before optical image stabilization where the actual sensor moves and the lens elements stay still. So just check that I'm giving you correct information here. Optical image stabilization is only found on the wide angle lens if we're looking at the sensor shift. So only on the wide lens on the Pro Max do we have for the first time sensor shift. Now there are some other modes that may sound fine, but you're not quite sure what they mean. We have, for example, night mode, which is found on the ultra-wide and the wide angle. And that night mode is carefully linked to the deep fusion that we keep hearing about in phones. And what is deep fusion? Well, it's a way of using the neural engine in your phone to learn about changes to the picture based upon the environment you're shooting in, and These changes are minute adjustments to each pixel: color, exposure, clarity, using optical stabilization. Here's what it means. The picture may well be a combination of multiple pictures. You may have 3, 5, 7, 10 photographs that are taken in quick succession, and the camera uses the most important parts of each of those pictures. It might take those pictures at different exposures. It might take them at slightly different focus points, but it combines all of that information by using the A14 processor in the phone to combine them down to one single, final, very good-looking image. So Deep Fusion is the pinnacle of computational photography, where it's a computer that produces the final perfect picture. It's not a single shot just taken through the lens. And more, in order to get good results out of a phone camera, the computational aspects have come to the forefront as being very, very important. I just want to show you a few of the pictures that demonstrate the capabilities of the new iPhone 12 Pro. I'm not going to touch on video in any significant way. I'm going to do a review on that at a later stage, but there are a few things I would like to comment on as we go. You can see that food plays an important part this Christmas season, but look at the lights. Colors present. In this picture, most of the color not present. The difference? RAW versus JPEG. Look at this one. An iPhone 6 took this picture. My iPhone 12 took this, and look at the dynamic range and the difference between them. Look at how clean taking it in RAW and editing it makes the pictures. Look at the soft bokeh in the background, the out of focus rear. That's not digitally achieved, that's simply because of the lens. I know not everyone is going to go out and buy the iPhone 12 Pro Max, but I wanted to just give you an insight into how really good phone cameras have become. Does it replace other cameras, real cameras? What about my Fujifilm X-T4 that I'm using to film right now? No, I would never call this a replacement for that guy. But I will tell you that if I were out and only had this and I took video and pictures, I don't think anybody looking at it would know it was taken on a phone. It's that good. If you're into phone photography, I am going to be adding a course in iPhone photography to my school. Now, our last episode was me demonstrating my new online digital camera training school. I have 2 courses already there. A few of you have already gone on and purchased a course. Don't forget, 40% discount. So Introduction to Digital Cameras, $25 US. Take 40% off that. You're down at $15. That's not a lot. And Working with Digital Photos, which is the A to Z of everything we have to do with our pictures, $75 US, take 40% off that, and you're down at $45, which is not a lot to spend. So if you've not been there, the link is right down here. Thank you again to all of you who love and support the channel and show goodwill, show generosity, sometimes through the PayPal donations. Thank you for just being there and your useful, helpful comments that help keep me on my toes and keep me investigating. So until next time, we'll see you. Look after yourself, and I'll be back next time with the episode on the installation of the front.